Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Today on CityCast Houston, budget season is upon us, and financial shortfalls seem to be on the horizon for more than just the city of Houston. Plus, HPD is using new technology to help close cases, but could it be coming at the cost of our civil rights and privacy? And if mosquitoes and webworms weren't enough, another creepy crawler is starting to migrate across our area. Houston Press reporter Faith Bugenhagen joins me to talk about those stories and more. It's Tuesday, June 11th. I'm Raheel Ramzan-Ali, and here's what Houston's talking about. Hey, Faith, what's up? Welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Raheel?
I'm doing great. You know what? It's a good start to the week. Can't complain. And I want to start with a story regarding office culture, okay? I saw this in the Wall Street Journal that workers 40 and under are having a hard time with a basic task. And that basic task is calling people. In fact, there are now phone call consultants who charge $3,000 for half a day of training to teach these 40 and under workers how to make phone calls and what to say. One of the biggest problems actually is they don't know what to say when hanging up, and they being the 40 and under workers. Now, since 2012, there has been a decline in phone calls being made. So I was blown away by this because I don't want to age myself here too much, but I don't mind phone calls. I don't prefer them, but I'm not like awkward in them. You're a little bit younger than me. Tell me, Faith, is this a big deal for you? Like, are you making phone calls?
Yeah, so I actually have heard about this. I'm not too surprised. I'm 23, and I think a lot of my friends kind of are reporting that, they don't love hopping on a phone call, which I think is super interesting just because as a reporter, you kind of have to call people. Like, you don't have a choice. So I don't know if I'm unique in that, but I'm definitely making a ton of phone calls on a daily basis. I think personally, I also may be an outlier of my age group because when I'm wanting to talk to a friend or a family member, I prefer phone calls. I think maybe because I'm always on the go, but that and voice memos are something that I feel like are trending right now. I personally will shoot one off to especially my long distance friends from college and from work that have moved on to other publications. I love a good voice memo.
I'm with you. Voice memo, especially the random one that just pops up, they make my days. Like when a friend sends it to me. But I called a friend over the weekend without texting this friend beforehand. And my friend was like, is everything okay? What's wrong? Are you fine? Like, what's happening? Why are you calling me? Is everything okay? And like the phone call has become an emergency contact method as opposed to just texting or checking in on social media. So I found that funny, but wow, a phone consultant making $3,000 a day doing the Lord's work, I guess, telling people how to hang up. Here's a fun tip. If you really want to throw somebody for a loop, a random person you've never talked to, when you hang up, just say, I love you. And they will remember you forever. Faith, let's get to some big stories that we should know about to start the week. What's on your radar?
Yeah, so ERCOT, which is the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, they just released a new report about energy usage that they're projecting over the summer, which is a huge deal. We all know what's going to happen this summer. We've already been experiencing some energy issues with all of the recent inclement weather. So they are projecting around 78,000 kilowatt per hour usage in August, which will be the peak. And that is a projection. Let me stress and emphasize that point. And it's interesting to see that figure because last year's largest capacity usage was around 85,000 kilowatts. So significantly more. And you would think that this year would be more than that amount, but they are projecting around 78,000. So I think it's just important to keep track on this because of the fact that we're used to power outages, especially with the increasing heat and, like I mentioned, inclement weather. So it will just be interesting to see how this all plays out. I'm sure that there's going to be some demands for power conservation, as we're very used to as Houstonians and Texans. So we'll just have to keep track of this. And I think that as the summer months play on, as hurricane season comes to fruition, we'll just have to keep an eye on everything in terms of the energy reserves.
Faith, with these numbers, what are the chances that there's going to be a grid emergency or a rolling blackout? That's one of the big fears, right, for Houstonians is, oh my gosh, is the power going to be out because of a rolling blackout on the hottest day? And those text messages last year, ERCOT did a good job of letting people know that, hey, look, just watch out for this. We're not necessarily going to turn it off the power right now or conserve, but just watch out for this. Those text messages did create some fear in a lot of people. What are the chances of these things happening?
Yeah, so there is a 16% chance of a grid emergency and then a 12% chance of rolling blackouts per this report. However, again, that's a projection percentage, and I think there have been a couple experts in the energy field that have said that a low percentage, or they're not confident in those figures. So it is lower, but is that the most accurate figure? I think time will tell.
Oh, man, I don't want this summer heat to be here, and it's already started. We're not even in August yet, and we're getting these numbers. We're just hoping for the best. And gosh, can ERCOT just fix everything up? Can we please be one of those places that we don't have this fear, right? And that's a whole different discussion. That's a whole different episode. But I appreciate you bringing this and kind of bringing some fear onto this episode. Thanks, Faith. Okay, Faith, my big story, we've been talking about the city of Houston's budget now, and of course, it's getting a lot of headlines, and rightfully so, because City Council will be discussing the firefighters' settlement on Wednesday, but Harris County is also facing a long-term budget crunch. This comes from Andrew Schneider of Houston Public Media. Daniel Ramos, executive director of Harris County's Office of Management and Budget, presented commissioners with a 5-year financial plan to avoid the worst possible outcome of the county's shrinking cash flow, where the county will face a $129 million deficit for fiscal year 2025. Now, the difference between the county's revenues and expenses was about $200 million back in 2016, but now it's zero. So basically, they are breaking even as of now. There are some complicating factors. State law limits how much counties could take in revenue, and Harris County increased spending. And of course, Texas law requires each county to balance their budget every fiscal year. So there are 3 scenarios that range from a deficit of only $20 million by 2029 to $310 million in that same stretch. Budget Director Ramos spelled out the problem more bluntly, saying, quote, "Doing nothing is not an option. If we say, hey, we'll bridge this year with cash, you see how quickly in 2 years we burn through all of our cash reserves, and we wouldn't have the opportunity when an emergency starts to just respond." And this is a big, big story for me, because we're all talking about the city's budget, and Harris County's like, hey guys, we need to focus on ours as well. It looks like this is a recurring problem.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad that you're drawing attention to this, because I do think that we are focusing on Houston's budget. I believe primarily because of the ongoing, as you mentioned, firefighters contract settlement and pay raises that are baked into that future contract. And so it's easy to, I guess, for lack of a better term, forget that there are other budget crises. I mean, we're seeing this not just within local government, but also local school districts. And it's important to remember that there are more entities out there than the city's government. And obviously, Harris County is facing significant issues similar to the city's financial situation. So definitely want to keep an eye on this. And it's going to affect a lot of residents. And as the budget director mentioned, going to set Harris County up to make some serious decisions about their financial operations.
And if you want to see the budget director's full report, it is linked in our show notes. There's a lot of information there. There are a lot of plans as well. So if you are interested in that, if you want to learn more about what Harris County is going to be doing to combat these issues, we have that link there for you.
Families have a lot going on. Let Ollie help manage the mental load with new cognitive health supplements for everyone 4 and up, like delicious Lolly Focus Pops or Lolly Mellow Pops for kids. And for parents, try 3 new Brainy Chews to help you focus, chill out, or get energized. Find these cognitive health buddies for the whole fam at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
At Evernorth Health Services, we believe costs shouldn't get in the way of life-changing care, and we're doing everything in our power to make it possible. Behavioral health solutions that also keep your projections at their best? It's possible. Pharmacy benefits that benefit your bottom line? It's possible. Complex specialty care that cares about your ROI? It's possible. Because we're already doing it. All while saving businesses billions. That's Wonder made possible. Learn more at evernorth.com/wonder.
Faith, are you ready for some rapid fire?
Yes, I am.
All right, our first story, Houston Police Department's acting police chief, Larry Satterwhite, said that due to staffing shortages, a new technology has been helping HPD identify vehicles with links to past crimes. The department is using over 3,800 safety cameras to help close cases. Now, these cameras are called flock safety cameras, and they scan license plates and alert the department if that car has been linked to a crime, and helping the department close cases. And by the way, Houston is using these more than any other city in the country, according to Satterwhite. Houston Chronicle's Matt DeGrood pointed out in his story that while HPD is praising the technology, civil rights groups are raising questions about the cameras. And Savannah Kumar, attorney with the American Civil Liberties Union of Texas, told the Chronicle that cameras that read license plates raise privacy concerns. Kumar says we need to be cautious when implementing or expanding these systems and to consider how long the data is retained and where it's shared by law enforcement. Going back to acting police chief Satterwhite, he praised that this technology is helping the department, but has not released exact numbers of how many cases this technology has helped close. The department is also struggling to hire more officers so they can improve response times and increase their investigative capacity. And again, Satterwhite said that this technology is helping them. So, there is a little bit of a discussion about what is good for the city, what is good for the residents, right? You've got the technology side, but you also have the civil liberty side as well. Your thoughts on this, Faith?
Yeah, and I do still stand on the fact that the department needs all the help that it can get right now, just given a lot of what's been recently reported coming out of the department. I know that they're in a difficult situation given the lack of employees and staff, which definitely understandable. But I do think that some of the concerns are valid coming from, as you mentioned, the civil rights side and just the privacy of scanning license plate. I think you brought up a good point of how long is this data kept? Is someone who does get their plate scanned having a charge or an incident come up from years and years ago, and then that's flagging them? I think with technology, it can be finicky, and there has to be guidelines and implementation, which I'm sure that the department has. So I think once we get those figures out from Satterwhite, as you mentioned, about the performance, maybe they could back up their claims that it is helping with those figures and give more of an evidential background to why they are saying that it is productive. Because if it is productive, that is good for the department, given them having to navigate the shortage of employees.
Yeah, and also all technology is not great technology when it comes to law enforcement. Last week we did see Houston Mayor John Whitmire say that he's planning to cancel the city's $3.5 million contract with ShotSpotter, which is a controversial gunshot detecting technology system. And he said, quote, "I think it's a gimmick. It's a feel-good program. Most law enforcement officers do not support ShotSpotter." And he said, I don't support it. It's been over a year since former Mayor Sylvester Turner approved renewing the technology of ShotSpotter, which was initially launched in 2020 and surveys southeast and northwest Houston neighborhoods, including parts of Sunnyside and Old Spanish Trail, among others. So that's the other thing I wanted to bring up, is that hopefully the department, the city officials are constantly looking at these technologies and are seeing if they are effective. And if they're not, then let's stop using them and stop wasting money. Civil rights are on the line and abusing those rights that the civilians have. So definitely want to see them constantly reviewing these technologies.
Yeah, absolutely. The same thing came to my mind about ShotSpotter because that was recently in headlines. So like you mentioned, just evaluating this technology, especially because there are costs behind pursuing this technology and programs with certain companies that provide that technology, which I think is another huge thing because maybe those finances could be going to more employee or more productive outlets.
Okay, Faith, our next story. Last year around this time, Bush Airport was named one of the best airports in the world by Cabin Crew HQ. But now, based on last month's data, AirHelp, which is a company that helps with travel claims, found that Bush Airport is the second worst due to disruptions. But come on, I hope this company recognizes and realizes that you got to take this data with a grain of salt, because we had some major weather issues last month, like the derecho and other summer thunderstorms that delayed flights. Now, 40.6% of flights were delayed last month at Bush Airport. And I'm bringing up this story because we need to fight back, Faith, and we need to let people know that Bush Airport isn't that bad. Now, traffic and construction around the airport, well, that's something I can't defend right now, and it's hopefully going to improve as these projects are completed. But we got to stand up for Bush Airport, Faith.
Yeah, I totally agree. I use Bush all the time. In fact, I don't think I've ever flown out of Hobby. No offense to the Hobby fans out there, but definitely defend it because, as you mentioned, it's kind of similar to blaming the airport for inclement weather, and that's just not something that is within their control. So definitely interesting argument there. I'm sure there's other elements that go into some of those disruptions, but I do think that a majority of the delays are obviously weather related, and it's kind of like, Bush doesn't control Mother Nature, unfortunately. We wish it did, but it doesn't.
Nope, not at all. And by the way, with that construction, look, be smart, get there early. You have to plan extra time because once you get inside the airport, it's awesome. It's easy. There's so much room. There's so many different restaurants, areas you can hang out at now. So it's fine once you get in. But again, getting there, it can be a little stressful. And by the way, Terminal D is supposed to open this summer, but the International Processor Center and new baggage for international won't be open until next year. So keep an eye on that one as well. All right, Faith, you know what Tuesday means. You listen to the show. That means we are going to do our Only in H-Town stories that are so H-Town that we have to talk about them. These can be funny. These can be serious, but only in H-Town does this happen. What do you got for me?
So tarantulas are back in Houston. I am terrified. I was honestly unaware that tarantulas were located in the Houston area, but apparently they're common and they're native to pretty much all areas of Texas, which again, I was unaware of. I'm not excited about, as I'm sure most people aren't. No offense to the tarantulas. I'm not a fan. It is mating season on top of that.
Oh, no.
Exactly. With the warm weather and the wet weather recently, there are a lot more insects, which is what they feed off of. So it's mating season. There's more food out there. Obviously, more will come up into the environment because of that, which is understandable. I mean, hey, they've got to eat, but just stay within a 25 feet radius away from me, please. All the tarantulas out there, I hope you're listening.
Yeah, if a tarantula is in my house, we're just going to move. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, I'm not afraid of many things, but tarantulas strike the fear of God in me. I don't know why. I don't know what caused this, but yeah, I'm not down with tarantulas. And the fact that they're going to be all over now, or at least it sounds like they are, is super scary.
No, exactly. And I live alone. So in my mind, the first thing that comes up is, who's going to kill that? Because it's not going to be me. So I'm just going to have to vacate my apartment, similar to you and your house.
Yep. It's like, hey, it belongs to you now, Tarantula. But thanks for, again, scaring us, Faith. Faith, I have two stories here for you, okay? The first one is only in H-Town can a resident go viral on Instagram because he shared a picture of his new Tesla Cybertruck. Now, have you seen one of these around the city yet?
I believe that I have.
Yeah, so I've seen a few of them, but the reason this one is going viral is because Eric Harrison posted a picture of his new Cybertruck, and the reason it's going viral is because he put some swangas on it. Now, if you don't know what swangas are, that is such a Houston thing. It's those huge rims on the tire that stick out, 30 inches. And yeah, he's the first one to put swangas on a Cybertruck. And I just love that this is going viral because of swangas.
Yeah, that is hilarious. I actually did see the post that you're talking about that went viral, and it's a stylistic choice. Would it be my choice? Probably not. But I love it for him. I love it for whoever decides. And honestly, it does look very cool. It's giving intimidating energy. Don't go near me. And that could be useful in Houston traffic. You want to keep the crazies away.
Yeah. It's funny. Paul Wall posted this on social media with a picture of that Cybertruck and just said, only in Houston. So boom, our segment is working. Look at that. It's growing. Okay, my second only in H-Town is this one. Only in H-Town can we rally around improving safety and security of the Columbia Tap Bike Trail, and nothing happens. Friend of the show, Joy Sewing, wrote a column explaining how the historic 4-mile Columbia Tap Bike Trail that connects 3rd Ward to Brays Bayou and downtown has seen minimal to no improvements in safety. The only improvements are new solar-powered lights and sidewalks on a portion of the trail near the Cooney Homes housing complex funded by the Houston Housing Authority. And last year in May, 5 cyclists were attacked in separate incidents along the trail. The community was outraged. They called for better lighting and safety measures, the same request they've been making for years, but just there's no money to make it happen. And the reason I'm bringing this story up is that I highly recommend you read Joy's column as she explores why this project can't find funding. Such an important project to provide safety for residents to use this historic trail, and they can't find the funding. So definitely wanted to bring this to everyone's attention and read that full story in our show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. It is disappointing to see how many of those projects that are needed can't find the funds to do it. I've read many similar situations over the years, especially along bayous and trails that are just being used by residents. And I feel like that should be a priority, just in my opinion, especially given the fact that they are widely used. They're residents. They're just trying to go about their day, work out, or even use certain passages to commute. So it's necessary to bring attention to when these safety measures are needed, but then there's no dollars to help with those efforts.
Yeah, perfectly said. Hey, Faith, how can listeners read your work and what do you have coming up?
So y'all can go to HoustonPress.com where my stories will be. And I have a lot coming up. I mean, school boards have kept me busy, some in Conroe and some in Fort Bend, and just local government. We have election coming up for Harris County Appraisal District, which a lot of people may be sleeping on. So get out to those polls. Early voting in those races and today, and then election day is Saturday, June the 15th. So that will be the last opportunity to go out and cast your ballot.
Faith, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me again. It's always a pleasure to join y'all.
That was Houston Press reporter Faith Bugenhagen. Let us know what stories you're keeping an eye on this week by sending us a message with the contact info in our show notes or on Instagram at CityCastHouston. That will do it for today. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something new. if mosquitoes and webworms weren't enough, try saying that 8 times.